The wasteland stretched endlessly, a broken land of black stone and glowing ash. The human explorer, Captain Elias, moved carefully across the surface. His scanner beeped softly, warning of radiation levels rising, but he pressed on. The mission was simple: search for resources, mark safe paths, and survive long enough to return to the ship. Dark clouds gathered above, rolling like waves of fire. He had seen storms before, but this one was different. The air trembled, carrying sparks of green lightning across the sky. A low hum vibrated in his chest, a warning that nature itself was about to strike. Elias adjusted his breathing mask and pulled his cloak tighter. He knew he had only minutes before the radioactive storm unleashed its fury. Shelter was the only hope, yet as he scanned the horizon, he saw movement, someone struggling through the dust. At first, he thought his mind was playing tricks. No one should be alive out here. The planet was abandoned after the war, its surface poisoned and cursed. Still, his eyes focused on the figure, small shape, cloaked and staggering, falling to her knees. Elias's instincts kicked in. He could have turned away, saved himself, found cover, but something in the way she collapsed told him she was real, and she was dying. He cursed under his breath and sprinted forward, boots sinking into the cracked ground. The storm began. The sky split open with a roar. Rain of glowing dust poured down. Each particle could burn through skin, poison lungs, and melt bone if exposed too long. Elias threw a shield cloak around the figure. Pulling her close, his own protective suit groaned as radiation levels spiked. "Stay still," he ordered, his voice calm though fear burned inside him. He tightened the cloak around her fragile frame, bending his body over hers. The storm hammered them. Trying to break through, he felt the sting on his back, his skin screaming, but he did not move. The stranger trembled in his arms. He could feel her shaking, her breaths ragged and shallow. For a moment, he thought she might be unconscious, but then he heard her whisper, soft and strange, Why would you protect me?" Elias frowned. The voice was not what he expected. It was melodic, layered with tones that did not sound human. But there was no time to think. He pressed her head down against his chest, shielding her from the glowing storm. Minutes stretched like hours. The storm raged. Each second felt like the end. His vision blurred, his body weakening under the strain. Still, he refused to move. His mind screamed for relief. Yet his heart told him he could not let go. Finally, the violent waves began to calm. The sky still glowed faintly, but the worst had passed. Elias slowly shifted, his arms stiff. He looked down at the figure he had saved. The cloak had slipped slightly, and for the first time he saw her face beneath the hood. She was not human. Her skin was pale with faint silver patterns glowing like starlight. Her eyes were large, deep, and shimmering like molten gold. Elias froze, caught between awe and confusion. He had heard rumors of survivors, but never one like this. The alien girl blinked, her eyes focusing on him. Her lips parted, whispering again, "You should not have done this." Elias frowned. "If I didn't, you'd be dead." She shook her head weakly. "No, human. Now you are in danger too." Before he could ask what she meant, the ground trembled. Echoes of machines stirred in the distance. Elias turned sharply, scanning the horizon. Through the fading dust, dark shapes moved, metallic drones sweeping across the land. Their red lights scanned the ruins like hungry eyes. Elias tightened his grip on the girl. His instinct screamed that this was no coincidence. Whoever she was, whatever secret she carried, the hunters were already closing in, and he had just placed himself directly in their path. The storm had ended, but something far more dangerous was about to begin. The cave was dark and cold, its walls glowing faintly with strange minerals. Elias dragged the weak stranger inside, laying her gently on the stone floor. Outside, the radioactive winds howled, beating against the rocks. But here, they were safe for now. He pulled off his mask, gasping for air. His body still burned from exposure. But he forced himself to stay alert. His eyes studied the cloaked figure. She looked too fragile to have survived even a few minutes in the storm. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, every breath sounding painful. Elias opened his kit, pulling out a small vial of purifier. "Drink this," he said, offering it carefully. The figure hesitated, golden eyes flickering with distrust, but finally she sipped, coughing before steadying herself. For a moment, silence filled the cave. Elias leaned against the wall, still watching her. "What were you doing out there?" he asked. His voice was calm, but inside his mind questions stormed like thunder. The girl looked down, pulling her torn cloak tighter around her body. "You should not have saved me," she whispered again. Her voice was soft but carried weight, like it belonged to someone used to being obeyed. Elias frowned. "That's the second time you've said that. Care to explain?" Her glowing eyes lifted toward him, holding a strange sadness. "Because saving me has sealed your fate. Human hands were never meant to touch the fire of my kind." He stared at her, confused. "Fire? You talk in riddles. Who are you?" She said nothing. Instead, she turned away, hiding her face beneath her hood. Elias stepped closer, determined to see. He reached out, but she flinched, gripping the cloak with trembling fingers. "I can't," she whispered. "Not after everything. Not after what they've done to me." The words struck him like a blade. Whoever they were, he could hear the fear in her tone. Elias exhaled slowly, choosing not to push. "Fine, keep your secrets, but at least tell me this. Why were you out there, walking into death?" For a moment, she said nothing. Only the sound of the storm outside filled the silence. Then, slowly, she spoke. "I was running from those who hunt me." Elias's instincts sharpened. His hand rested near his weapon. "Hunters." She nodded faintly. "Machines, soldiers, enemies of my bloodline." Her voice broke. "They will not stop until I am gone, until my name is erased." Elias leaned back, eyes narrowing. This was no ordinary refugee. There was power in the way she spoke, a weight of authority. Even in her weakness, she sounded like someone who once ruled. But before he could question further, the cave shook, dust fell from the ceiling. Elias stiffened. Listening, he heard it, distant metal echoes, the sound of drones crawling across the wasteland. Her golden eyes widened with fear. "They are coming." Elias cursed under his breath. He moved quickly, checking his rifle. His body still ached, but there was no choice. "Listen," he said firmly. "I don't know who you are, but if they're after you, they'll come through me first." She looked at him in disbelief. "You would fight for a stranger?" Elias smirked faintly. "You're not just a stranger anymore. I risked my life for you already. Might as well see this through." The girl's lips trembled, as if words wanted to escape but couldn't. Finally, she whispered, "You don't understand. If they find us, they won't just kill you. They'll make you suffer because you touched me." Her voice cracked, but Elias didn't waver. He crouched near the entrance, scanning the shadows. "Then let them try," he said, his tone calm but cold. The girl sat in silence, her hood still hiding her full face. But inside, something shifted. For years, she had been hunted, betrayed, abandoned. No one had stood between her and danger. Not until this human. As the sound of drones grew louder, the cave filled with tension. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon. The girl whispered one final warning, her voice trembling with both fear and sorrow. "You don't know what I am," she said. "And when you do, it may already be too late." Outside, the red lights of machines moved closer, shadows crawling across the wasteland. The hunt had found them, and the storm inside the cave was only beginning. The cave shook again, the sound of distant machines crawling closer. Elias stayed near the entrance, his rifle ready. His breath came slow and steady, though inside his chest his heart pounded like a drum. He had fought before, but this was different. The enemy outside was unknown, and the girl behind him carried secrets he could not yet understand. The cloaked figure shifted, trying to stand. Her legs trembled, and she almost fell. Elias quickly turned and caught her, his hands pressed against her arm, and for the first time, he felt the warmth of her skin beneath the torn fabric. It was not like human flesh. It pulsed faintly, as if glowing from within. She gasped, pulling her cloak tighter, but Elias's eyes had already caught a glimpse. Silver markings glimmered on her skin, delicate lines like constellations, alive with faint light. Elias froze, his mind trying to make sense of what he had seen. "You're not," he began. Don't say it. She cut him off, her voice sharp, her golden eyes burned with a strange fire. You should not know. You should not see. But it was too late. The truth was breaking through. Elias stepped back slightly, his rifle still gripped tight. You're not just some wanderer, are you? Who are you really? She trembled, torn between silence and confession. At last, she pulled back the hood of her cloak, letting the shadows fall away. Her face shone with unearthly beauty. Smooth, pale skin traced with glowing silver veins, and eyes like molten gold. Elias felt his breath catch. She was no common alien. She was something far higher. I am Leora, she whispered, her voice heavy with both pride and sorrow. Daughter of the last royal house, princess of the fallen, starborn throne. Elias stared at her, stunned into silence. He had heard myths of the starborn, an ancient line of rulers who once controlled whole systems. Their empire had collapsed in blood and betrayal. Most believed none survived. Yet here, standing before him, was proof that the legends were true. Leora lowered her gaze. Now you understand why they hunt me. My bloodline is forbidden. My name is dangerous. If they find me alive, they will kill not only me, but anyone who shelters me. Elias exhaled slowly, his grip on the rifle loosening. So that's why the drones are here. They're not searching the wasteland. They're searching for you. She nodded, her voice breaking. You risked yourself in the storm without knowing who I was. And now, because of me, your fate may be sealed. Elias gave a small, humorless laugh. Wouldn't be the first time I got dragged into trouble, but I'll tell you this, princess or not, I'm not leaving you behind. Her golden eyes widened, filled with disbelief. You don't understand. Humans don't get involved in royal blood wars. Even my own people betray me. Why would you stay? Elias met her gaze steadily. Because you were dying and I couldn't walk away. That's reason enough. For the first time, her expression softened. A spark of trust flickered in her eyes, something she had not allowed herself to feel in years. But before either of them could say more, the sound outside grew louder, the whirring of engines, the clicking of metal feet. The hunters had found the cave. Leora's body tensed, her silver veins glowing brighter. Elias noticed it, power thrumming beneath her skin like lightning trapped inside. What is that? He asked. She turned her face away, shame in her voice. A curse, a gift. The blood of the starborn carries energy that others would kill to possess. It is why I can never be safe. Elias adjusted his rifle, moving closer to the entrance. Then let's make sure they don't get it. The red glow of drones spilled across the rocks outside, scanning the entrance. Leora pressed a hand against the wall, her markings flickering as if answering the threat. Elias glanced at her, realizing she was far more dangerous and far more important than he ever imagined. The machines crept nearer, their metallic voices echoing. Target located, royal signature detected. Leora's heart sank. Elias steadied his weapon. The secret was out. There was no hiding anymore. She was not just a stranger he had saved in the storm. She was a princess, and the galaxy itself wanted her erased. As the first drone crawled into sight, Elias smirked under his breath. Well, princess, looks like our quiet talk is over. Leora whispered back, fear and courage mixing in her voice. Then we fight, together. And with that, the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm that now waited at the mouth of the cave. The cave trembled as the sound of machines grew louder. Elias crouched at the entrance, his rifle steady in his hands. His body was still weak from the storm, but his mind was sharp. The air smelled of metal and burning ozone. Behind him, Leora pressed herself against the stone wall. Her golden eyes flickered nervously. Her silver markings glowed faintly in the shadows. She had revealed her secret, and now the hunters would stop at nothing. Elias glanced back at her, his voice calm. Stay low. If they come in, I'll slow them down. Her eyes widened. You'll die? He gave a half smile. Not today. The first drone appeared at the cave mouth. Its red scanner swept the dark. A cold mechanical voice echoed. Target confirmed. Royal blood signature detected. Elias fired. The shot cracked like thunder. Sparks exploded as the drone collapsed into twisted metal. But almost instantly, more red lights appeared in the mist outside. Dozens of them. The cave shook again as heavy machines stomped closer. These were not just drones, but armor hunters, tall, insect-like machines with sharp limbs that glowed with plasma. They moved with deadly precision. Leora's breath caught. Her markings flared brighter. Elias noticed it again, the strange energy inside her responding to danger. "What can you do?" he asked quickly. She shook her head, her voice trembling. "If I use it, they will sense me even stronger. They will send more stronger ones. I can't." "Then don't," Elias interrupted firmly. "Not yet. Save it for when there's no other way. For now, we fight smart." He moved quickly, tossing a small mine at the cave entrance. The explosion shook the rocks, collapsing part of the tunnel. Dust rained down, slowing the advance of the machines, but still their metal limbs clawed through relentless. Leora pressed a hand to her chest, whispering in fear, "They won't stop. They never stop. Not until I am ash." Elias looked back at her, his eyes hard. "Then I guess they'll have to go through me first." The hunters surged, breaking through the rubble. Elias fired again and again, his shots precise, taking out glowing joints. Each kill bought seconds, but seconds were all they had. One of the larger hunters leapt forward, its plasma blade striking toward him. Elias rolled aside, the heat grazing his arm. He gritted his teeth and shot upward, shattering its sensor. The machine shrieked as it fell, twitching like a dying insect. Leora gasped, watching him move with relentless courage. She had seen soldiers before, thousands, trained killers of empires. But none like him. He fought not for reward, not for duty, but simply because he refused to abandon her. Another explosion shook the ground. More drones poured in. Elias reloaded, sweat dripping down his face. His voice was calm but urgent. "We can't stay here. They'll bury us alive." Leora stepped forward, her markings glowing brighter despite her fear. "Then we run. There's a tunnel deeper inside. It leads to the ruins of an old city." Elias nodded sharply. "Show me." Together they moved, Elias covering the path, blasting the drones that chased them. The cave twisted and narrowed, forcing the hunters to crawl. Elias threw grenades behind them, collapsing sections to slow pursuit. The deeper they ran, the louder the machines became. Their voices echoed through the stone. Royal's signature detected. Pursue, capture, erase. Leora stumbled, her cloak tearing further. Elias caught her quickly, pulling her along. "Keep moving, princess. Don't quit on me now." Her eyes locked on his, filled with fear and something new. "Hope? Why do you keep calling me that?" she asked breathlessly. He gave a smirk, even as the ground shook behind them. "Because it's what you are, and because I don't care if the galaxy wants you dead. You're not dying on my watch." Her heart raced. The words struck deeper than the storm ever could. For a moment, her fear faded, replaced by strength she thought she had lost. Finally, they reached a broken passage that opened into the ruins of a vast underground city. Towers of stone and metal lay in collapse, glowing faintly with ancient energy. Elias looked around quickly. This will have to do. But the hunters were still coming. Their red lights filled the tunnels, closer with every second. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon, turning to face the dark. Leora stepped beside him, her markings blazing now like fire, her voice steady for the first time. "You risked everything for me, human. Now I will risk everything for you." Elias glanced at her, his eyes narrowing. "What are you about to do?" Her golden eyes glowed fiercely. "The thing I swore never to use again." Outside, the hunters screamed as they poured into the ruins. Elias readied himself for the storm, but deep inside, he knew something far more powerful than his rifle was about to be unleashed. The ruins were silent for only a heartbeat before the machines stormed in. Red lights flickered like burning eyes. Elias stood at the front, rifle raised, his stance unshaken. Behind him, Leora's silver markings blazed like fire. Her hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the weight of what she was about to unleash. Elias glanced back at her, his voice low but steady. "Whatever you're planning, make sure it doesn't kill me too." Her golden eyes softened. "I will try." Then she raised her hands. Energy pulsed outward in a wave. The ruins themselves seemed to awaken. Symbols carved into stone lit up, echoing her power. The hunters screeched as the wave struck them. Their metal limbs melted, sensors exploding in sparks. Elias shielded his face from the light, amazed and shaken at the same time. When the glow faded, half the machines lay in pieces, but Leora collapsed to her knees. Her breath came in gasps. Her strength was fading fast. Elias rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. "You're burning yourself out," he said sharply. She shook her head weakly. "I had no choice. They would have killed you." Before he could answer, more shadows appeared at the far end of the ruins. Not drones this time, but alien soldiers, cloaked in dark armor. Their weapons glowed with sharp light. Their leader's voice echoed coldly. "Surrender, princess. The galaxy has no throne for you." Leora's face went pale. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle, his voice sharp. "And if she doesn't?" The soldier raised his blade. "Then you die beside her, human." Elias smirked, a tired but fearless expression. "Yeah, I figured." The soldiers advanced, and Elias aimed, ready to fight until the end. But before the first shot was fired, Leora grabbed his arm. Her golden eyes burned with desperation. "Stop! Don't throw your life away for me." Elias looked at her, surprised by the tremble in her voice. "You think I saved you back there, just to abandon you now?" "Not happening." She stared at him, emotions colliding inside her chest. All her life, loyalty had been a lie. Allies had betrayed her. Guards had sold her secrets. Even family had turned against her. Yet here was a human, someone with nothing to gain, standing between her and death. Tears stung her eyes. Why? Why would you do this? Elias's voice was calm, simple, because you needed help, because someone has to stand with you. And right now, that's me. Her heart clenched. She had been told her crown was worth more than 1,000 lives. But this man, this stranger, risked everything without asking for her name or her throne. The soldiers moved closer, their weapons raised. Leora's energy flickered weakly around her hands. She could not strike again without destroying herself. For the first time in years, she felt helpless, but also for the first time, she did not feel alone. Elias raised his weapon again, whispering over his shoulder, "If you've got any royal commands left in you, now's the time." Leora swallowed, her voice shaking but firm. "Then hear this, human. Do not die for me. Live, and if I fall, remember who I was." He chuckled softly. "Not much of a command, princess, but I'll take it." The soldiers charged. Elias fired. The ruins exploded in chaos. Plasma bolts cracked against stone. Hunters shrieked as grenades shattered their limbs. Elias fought with desperate skill, dragging Leora behind cover whenever the blast grew too close. Yet no matter how many he cut down, more poured in. The enemy was endless, a tide that would drown them both. Elias's ammo began to run low. Sweat dripped down his face, his arms burned, but he refused to stop. Leora watched him, her chest tight with something she could not name. Every shot he fired, every step he took to shield her, it broke the chains around her heart. For the first time since her exile, she felt a bond stronger than fear, stronger than duty. When the last of his rifle's energy cells drained empty, Elias dropped it, standing tall even with nothing left but his fists and his courage. The soldiers surrounded them, weapons aimed. The leader stepped forward, his blade glowing. "Last chance, princess, surrender, and I may grant your human a quick death." Leora's silver veins glowed again, brighter than before. Her voice cut through the ruins like a vow. "No, he stood for me when no one else would. If I must choose between the throne and his life, then I choose him." The soldiers hesitated, their formation faltering. Even Elias blinked in surprise at her words. A princess who would abandon her crown for a stranger? Such defiance was unthinkable. Elias smirked, whispering to her, "You really know how to make a guy feel special, princess." Her lips trembled, but her golden eyes were steady. Not special, just human. And in that moment, surrounded by death, she made her choice. Her loyalty was no longer to the broken empire. but to the man who had shielded her in the storm. The ruins trembled again, her power rising one final time, this time not out of fear, but out of will. The ruins shook as the hunters tightened their circle. Red lights flashed like blood across broken walls. Elias stood tall despite his empty weapon, his fists clenched, his breath steady. He had no more bullets, but he still had his will. Beside him, Leora rose slowly, her silver markings blazing brighter than ever before. The fear in her eyes was gone, replaced by something harder, resolve. Her golden gaze locked on the armored soldiers, and for the first time, she did not tremble. The leader of the hunters stepped forward, his plasma blade humming. "Enough games, Princess, kneel, and I will make your end swift." Elias smirked faintly. "You've got a funny idea of mercy." He stepped in front of Leora, blocking the hunter's path with nothing but his body. The soldiers laughed, their metallic voices filled with mockery. A human dares to stand against the blood purge? But before Elias could answer, Leora's voice rang out, clear and strong. "He dares because he has more honor in his heart than your entire army." Her markings flared like fire, her hands rising. "And I will not kneel, not to traitors, not to butchers." Energy exploded from her palms. A storm of silver light burst outward, slamming into the hunters. The ruins roared as the blast tore through steel, melting armor, shattering weapons. The machines screamed as circuits burned out. Elias shielded his eyes from the blinding glow. When the light faded, half the enemy lay in ruins, but Leora staggered, her body trembling. Elias caught her before she fell. "Careful, Princess, you'll kill yourself before they do." She looked up at him, weak but determined. "Then let me burn for something that matters." The remaining hunters regrouped, their leader unharmed. His blade cut through the dust, glowing brighter. "Your power is strong, but it is fading. You cannot win." Elias helped Leora stand, his voice sharp. "Then we'll take as many of you with us as we can." The next wave struck. Plasma bolts ripped through the air. Elias dodged behind broken stone. Dragging Leora with him, he fought with anything he could find, throwing knives, grenades, even pieces of rubble. Every second was survival. But the enemy pressed harder, cornering them. The leader advanced, his blades slicing through cover. Sparks flew as stone walls cracked. Elias raised his arms, ready to take the blow. At the last second, Leora pushed forward. Her body glowed like a star. Her markings burned white. Elias stared in shock. "What are you doing?" Her voice was steady, though pain laced every word. The last stand of Princess. She unleashed everything. The ruins shook as her energy surged into the air. Beams of silver light shot outward, cutting through the hunters like fire through paper. The ground cracked beneath her feet, the ancient city groaning as if alive again. The leader roared, charging through the storm, his blade raised high. Elias moved instinctively, grabbing a fallen weapon. He hurled it with all his strength. The blade struck the hunter's chest, knocking him off balance. Leora seized the moment. Her hands rose high, and with a cry that echoed through the ruins, she released a final wave of power. The leader screamed as his body shattered in silver fire. His armor split apart, his blade falling lifeless to the ground. Silence followed. The last of the machines collapsed, smoking ruins around them. The air glowed faintly, heavy with the scent of metal and ash. Elias dropped to one knee, exhausted, his chest heaved with ragged breaths. He looked over at Leora. She stood trembling, her body weak, her silver markings dimming. "You're still alive," he muttered with a faint smile. "Guess we won." She shook her head slowly. "No, this is only the beginning. They will send more, stronger. They will never stop." Elias chuckled softly. "Then I guess we'll just have to keep fighting." Her golden eyes softened, shimmering with something deeper than gratitude. "You don't understand what you've done. Human, you've bound yourself to me, and the galaxy will treat you as my shield." He smirked tiredly. Better than being useless. For the first time, she allowed herself a small smile. Weak but real, she whispered, "Perhaps loyalty is not so rare after all." The ruins lay silent, but above them, the sky rumbled again. New storms brewing, new enemies waiting. The last stand was over, but the war for survival had just begun. The ruins were quiet at last. Only the echo of falling stone and the hiss of burnt metal filling the air. Elias leaned against a broken pillar, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. His weapon was gone, his body bruised, but his spirit unbroken. Beside him, Leora sank slowly to the ground. Her silver markings glowed faintly now, dim like fading stars. Her golden eyes were half closed, but still burning with life. Elias crouched beside her, concern etched on his face. "You push yourself too far," he said softly. His voice was calm, but heavy with worry. "You'll burn out before they even send the next wave." She gave him a faint smile, weak but defiant. "If I must burn, then I burn as myself, not as their prisoner, not as their weapon." Elias shook his head. "No, not while I'm here." She studied him, this human who had risked everything without hesitation. Her heart ached with a feeling she could not name. For years she had carried only fear and bitterness. For years she had believed loyalty was a lie. But now, against all odds, she had found something she thought lost forever: trust. The silence stretched until the ground above rumbled. The faint glow of engines flickered across the sky. Elias looked up sharply. "More ships," he muttered. "We don't have time to rest." But Leora shook her head slowly. "Not enemies, not this time." Moments later, shapes descended through the storm. Sleek vessels bearing the crest of the old starborn royal guard. Elias tensed, raising what little strength he had left, but Leora reached for his arm. "They are mine," she whispered. "The last who remain loyal." The ships landed in the ruins, armored figures stepping out. Unlike the hunters, these soldiers bowed deeply before her. Their voices rang in unison. "Princess Leora, you live." Her heart trembled at the sound of her title, spoken with respect instead of hatred. For a moment, she almost wept, but then her eyes shifted to Elias, standing tall despite his wounds, his gaze wary, ready to fight even against her own people if needed. One of the guards spoke. "We will take you back. Your enemies are weakened. Your throne can rise again." Leora hesitated. Her gaze drifted back to Elias. He was silent, watching her, waiting for her choice. The storm still roared above them. Yet in this moment, the true storm was in her heart. She whispered, "A throne means nothing if it costs the life of the one who saved me." The guards exchanged uneasy glances. "Princess, this human, he is no royal. He cannot stand beside you." Elias gave a dry laugh. "Don't worry. I'm not looking for a crown. I just want to make sure she gets out alive." But Leora's golden eyes never left his. Her voice was steady now, filled with strength. "Then let it be known. If I rise, he rises with me. If I live, he stands at my side. He shielded me when no one else would. He is my protector, my bond." The guards froze, stunned by her words. Elias blinked, almost speechless. "You really know how to complicate a man's life, princess." She smiled faintly, her hand trembling as it reached for his. "Not complicate, honor." For a moment, the ruins felt less broken, less haunted. The storm above began to fade, shafts of light breaking through the dark. But as Elias helped her to her feet, the horizon flared with red once more, enemy signals rising like a swarm. The war was far from over. Leora leaned close, her voice soft but fierce. "This is only the beginning. Human, the galaxy will come for us. They will try to tear us apart." Elias tightened his grip on her hand, his smirk tired but unshaken. "Then let them try." Together, they stepped forward, no longer just survivor and princess, but something greater, a bond forged in storms, tested in battle, and unbroken by worlds. And as the light split the sky, their story was no longer just survival. It was the spark of something the galaxy had long forgotten: hope.